Hey everyone, it's Sean. In the previous video, I walked you through some of the things that you could do in the 3D menu using extrude, revolve, and rotate. In this video, I'm going to be walking you through how to create a beer can using 3D effects in Illustrator. So to do that, let's get going. I just have a standard 4" by 6" document in Illustrator, and what I would like to do is I would like to bring in this beer can photo from our week 5 tutorial folder. You can find it under beer can tutorial. And to do that, we can just simply drag it in. And it's just got to get sized down a little bit. So let's just click in the corner, hold Alt, Option, Shift, and squeeze it on in. And the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to jump up here to our layers panel, or jump down here, I should say. I'm going to call this guy reference. I'm going to double click. I'm going to make it a template, hit OK. And I'm going to create a new layer on top and call this beer can build. There we go. So we have our layers nicely set up, good to go. And what I'm going to do next is I'm going to start drawing out the shape. Now, the thing that you might be tempted to do first is draw out the entire beer can shape, and that's not really what it is we're actually going for. What we want to do is draw half of the shape, only half. So to do that, what we need to do is we need to find sort of the middle of our can. And let's just try, that looks like the middle there. And we can sort of just start drawing this guy out. So using our pen tool, just dropping points every once in a while, like that. And just trying to loosely match the curves. Well, not loosely. Try and match them to the best of your ability. Sometimes you might need to undo a step just to get the shape down. Hold out Shift. The one thing too that you want to try and keep in mind here is to drop as few anchor points as possible. The more anchor points you have to drop, the harder there is going to be a step later on because of how Illustrator likes to section things out. So that's just something to be aware of. And we're going to close the path up like that. Cool. We want to make sure that we just have a color and no stroke. And now what we can do is we can go up to, first actually I'm going to just shut off my template here. I'm going to go up to Effect, 3D, and hit Revolve. All right. Did not really do what I thought it might have, what I thought it was supposed to do. I think it's because we have to realign it from left to right edge. There we go. And I'm just going to change the perspective to be 0 on everything so it sits nice and forward. And then I can grab this red axis. In this case, it is the x-axis. I'm just going to pull it down a little bit. Maybe down to like -5 should be okay. Or -4, somewhere in there. And the reason why we had to make sure that this was set to right edge instead of left edge is because our left edge is the shape of the can. The right edge was the flat edge. So you always want, if you're creating a 3D shape that's based off of an object, you want to split that object in half. So if it's a beer bottle in this case, we would have started up at the can or at the lid of the beer bottle and worked our way halfway down the shape, leaving half of it cut in half like so. Just to double check, if we go to our left edge, because our left edge was curved, that's why you're getting this sort of cylindrical shape instead of actually getting the correct the correct shape of the can there. So now it's just a matter of playing around with our shading. I'm going to leave it like that for now, and I'm actually going to come in, I'm going to change the color from blue more over to like a off-white sort of gray color. I'm going to hit OK. That looks a little bit more like a standard, metal aluminum can. Now, if you want to go back in and adjust your 3D options, under the Appearance tab, you'll see now we have a 3D and Revolve section, a 3D and Evolve effect. So I can click on that, it will bring up our options menu, and you can start to adjust some of these things. The first thing that I want to adjust is our blend steps. I want to try and smooth that out a bit. I'm going to bring it up to 90, maybe 100. 100 seems fine. I would like it to be on plastic shading. Yeah, I'm going to leave it on plastic shading just because it creates such a beautiful little highlight here. And the other cool thing about 3D objects, and that this is something that's really important, is generally speaking, you always have a few sources of light. Rarely will you ever have just one source of light on an object, and we can actually create another source of light by hitting this plus button down here. Now, when you have your new light source selected, you can go and adjust all of these lighting settings again. So I'm just going to drag this out to the side a little bit more. And I'm going to start adjusting our lighting effects here. I definitely don't need this light to be as intense. So I'm just going to scale down the lighting intensity. There we go. My computer is slowing down a little bit just because I'm trying to record this as well as deal with some 3D objects and things like that. So if your computer starts to slow down as well, just know that, you know, the MacBook that you're probably working on is not the most sophisticated graphics machine out there. So you might have a little bit of trouble with this. What I would suggest is close every piece of software that you have open that you can close, and sort of just try and work only in Illustrator for this portion, okay? That includes things like Spotify. Obviously, if you're watching this tutorial on YouTube, you can't close down your web browser, but close down as many tabs as you can. Close down your other Adobe products and things like that, and it'll just work a little bit better for you. I'm just gonna close or sort of lessen this ambient light, maybe just down to 40. That should be fine there. Cool. And actually what I'm going to try and do is I'm going to try and create a third lighting bit, and I'm going to bring it all the way up to the very top. I'm going to turn the ambient lighting really far down, maybe to only like 10. Oh, actually, you know what, guys? I apologize. Ambient lighting is actually something that affects the entirety of all of your lights, whereas these are highlights, and so you're only going to be affecting highlight intensity and highlight size with these. So I'm going to turn down my highlight intensity. There we go. Okay, and what I actually want to do as well is select the light that we created as a second one and send it behind the object. This will just help to sort of create a little bit of extra sort of lighting coming from around the edge of the can. I know it sounds weird, but trust me on this, it's actually doing something by being over there. And if you want, you can drag it to the very edge of your sphere over here to really try and hit in some extra highlights over here. Okay, so that looks pretty solid. I'm pretty happy with that. We can go ahead and hit OK. And there you have the beginnings of a nice looking beer can. One thing that I would like to sort of point out is if we were to try and bring on some artwork or like bring on a label to this beer can, there's a couple different things that we could be aware of. First off, this to me looks like the average size of a can of Coke, right? Doesn't necessarily scream tall boy or anything like that. So let's just sort of move this guy here off to the side. It's taking its own sweet time here, so don't mind me. There we go. And I'm just going to hold Alt Option Shift and duplicate another one. I'm actually going to hide this one in the layers panel. I'm just going to hide it. That way we're only dealing with one shape at a time. And you can simply just expand this to create something that feels more like a legitimate, like, tall boy, if you will. It's pretty simple in that sense. Cool. Okay, so the next thing I want to talk about is a feature called map artwork. And before we can really get into our map artwork, we need to have artwork to map onto our beer can. If you go back into the project file, you'll see that there's a beerlogos.ai file. We can double click and open that up. And you'll have a choice of 3 different logos to choose from. Just select one of the groups, hit Command C to copy it, and Command V to paste it into our Illustrator document. And the next thing that we want to do is we want to create a symbol out of this. So go to Window and open up the Symbols dialog box. You can drag it out like so, and just expand it a little bit. There we go. And with our logo selected, we can hit New, and we'll call this Beer Logo. We don't want it to be a movie clip. We want it to be a graphic. We want it to be a dynamic symbol, and we can just ignore the rest. We can hit OK. There we go. There's our symbol. We can click on our beer can and come back over to our Appearance tab. Click once on 3D Revolve and open up our Options menu for that. There we go. So at the very bottom here, you'll see there's something called Map Artwork to Surface of 3D Object. And when you open this up, it looks really weird. It looks like kind of intimidating at first, actually. And the really important thing to notice here is the section of the shape that is being highlighted. So right now it's highlighting the lip or the lid of the can, right? And you can see it's not a very tall object, right? It's pretty narrow. So that's why it looks like there's not a whole lot here. But up in the top right corner, you'll see it says 1 of 3. Illustrator has tried to identify 3 different sections of this shape that it can identify as different sort of shapes, right? This one is obviously the middle section, and this is the lip, and then this is sort of the exterior. I don't know what it's trying to grab here. It looks like it's trying to grab another section of the lip and a bit of the exterior wall for some reason. The way Illustrator tries to understand these sections is based on anchor points. So depending on where you drop your anchor points, yours might look a little bit different compared to mine, but that's okay. The next thing that you sort of want to try and understand is where each quadrant is being located on the can. So you can see how we have 1, 2, 3 levels of wider rectangular wireframe shapes, and 1, 2, 3 layers of wider rectangular wireframe shapes here. That's where the body of our can is. And the way you map artwork onto a 3D object is by use of symbols, okay? So you can see it's looking for a symbol. We've said we have none, but I actually want to incorporate our beer logo as the symbol. So we'll open this drop-down menu, we'll click on beer logo, we'll wait for it to open up. And this gray section here, this represents the side of the shape you can't see. This lighter section here represents the side of the shape you can see. And all you have to do is click and drag and try and position it in a position on the can that is relatively where you want it to be. Now, the thing about this is it will sort of take on a slightly different optical shape compared to what your actual design looks like. If you use your arrow keys by mistake like I did, it'll cycle through different symbols, so just be careful about that. But back to what I was saying about the optics. You might have spent all this time building such a beautiful logo or a beautiful graphic to stick on this 3D shape, and unfortunately you might have to sort of optically stretch it back to be more like what it should have been, which is a bit unfortunate, but with a little bit of time, care, and attention to detail, you can get this to sort of work in your favor. It just does take a lot of patience and a lot of sort of fiddling about to sort of figure out what's going on here. I'm just going to move it down one more time, and then I'm just going to have to call it a day. And I'm going to move it over slightly. Boom. Cool. So the other option that we have down here is shade artwork. If we hit shade artwork, it will apply shadows on top of our symbol here, the shadows that are being mapped to the 3D object that we set using our lighting conditions. And you can see that looks pretty good right there. It took on the shadows properly. One option that we have here is scale to fit. If you wanted to create a design that wrapped completely along the can, you could use scale to fit and it would work really well. But in this case, because we only wanted a logo or a symbol to be mapped to our can, that's something that you kind of have to be aware of and just sort of optically deal with it on your own. When you have everything done and you're ready to set this object, all you have to do is hit OK, and boom, we have a beer can, a tall boy, with our logo applied to it. The logo's being shaded, everything looks really nice. My file is slowing down my computer like crazy. And just to show you guys, let's say you wanted to go in and adjust this, you could just click on your options panel for 3D and Revolve, go to Map Art, and all you have to do is navigate. Come on, let's go. It's being kind of testy. Don't mind this. All you would have to do is click on Map Art, wait for the dialog window to open up, and navigate back to the panel of the object that you wanted to place the artwork onto, and you can go and readjust the symbol that you placed on there originally. My computer doesn't really want to be playing around very nicely right now, but them's the breaks. I promise you it would work if I wasn't doing a tutorial, so don't mind me. But that, ladies and gentlemen, is how to create a 3D shape of a beer can, place a logo on the beer can, and sort of manipulate extra lighting conditions on top of that. I hope you guys found this useful, and I'll catch you in the next video. See ya!